Have you ever been doing something completely normal and suddenly paused to think, wait a minute, this feels kinda off? There are things we do on a daily basis. Looking in the mirror, driving to work, texting a friend, calling out to someone we know. We never question them because they're habits, reflexes, just part of life. But if you take a step back and look at them from a different angle, you might realize something. Our brains can do some seriously creepy things and we don't even notice. It's not about ghosts. It's not the supernatural. It's you going through strange, mildly unsettling moments, and thinking they're completely normal. Believe me, you're not alone. Millions of people have had that frozen-in-place moment when they realized they just did something that felt like a scene from a psychological thriller without any idea why. Today, let's explore those creepy little things we've all done, without realizing it. And you'll see, sometimes, the weirdest things come from the most familiar places. Ready to go down the rabbit hole? Idea 1. Staring into the mirror in the dark, and the strange distortion of your own face. Have you ever stood in front of a mirror at night, in a dimly lit room, and just stared into your own face? It sounds harmless. After all, we look in the mirror every day. But when the lighting is low, the room is silent, and you keep your gaze fixed longer than usual, something eerie begins to happen. Psychologists call this the strange face illusion. According to research by Giovanni Caputo, when you stare at your reflection in low light for too long, your brain starts to lose control over how it processes facial features. Familiar lines begin to blur, distort, and slowly morph into something else, sometimes a stranger's face, or even something more frightening. Some people even report seeing a face that no longer feels like their own. Or worse, feeling as if someone else is looking back at them from the mirror. Why does this happen? When your brain doesn't get clear enough visual input, it starts filling in the gaps with imagination and unconscious memories. And that's when the darker side of your mind may surface, without you even realizing it. So next time you feel like staring into the mirror in the dark, maybe think twice. Not because there's a ghost, but because your brain might be the creepiest thing in that room. Idea 2. Calling a loved one by the wrong name. A small mistake that gets creepy if you think about it. You've probably done it before. You called your child by the dog's name. You called your husband by your ex's name. You meant to say, Mom. But somehow your old math teacher's name slipped out. You laugh it off and think, guess my brain glitched for a second. But if you pause and ask yourself, why that name? Why that person? You might realize it's not as random as it seems. According to psychologists, name mix-ups often happen due to something called memory overlap, where people who are emotionally close or meaningful to you get grouped in the same mental category. In other words, if you accidentally call your spouse by your ex's name, it might be because both relationships left strong emotional imprints, whether you like it or not. Even more unsettling? Sometimes, the name that slips out reflects something buried in your subconscious, something you're thinking or feeling without even realizing it. So the next time you call someone by the wrong name, maybe don't brush it off so quickly. It could be your brain quietly replaying something from deep inside. And if you really think about it, that's just a little bit creepy. Idea 3. Talking to yourself seems normal, but there's something strange about it. Have you ever found yourself sitting alone and suddenly talking, not just mumbling, but having a full-blown conversation? You. Should I go or not? Then also you. Well, if I go, I'll have to do this and that. And just like that, you're engaged in a multi-minute exchange between you and you. To be fair, this behavior is quite common and even helpful. It allows you to process thoughts, organize emotions, and make decisions more clearly. But pause for a second and ask yourself, I just played two roles. One asking, one answering. So, who exactly is talking to whom in my head? Sometimes you even laugh, challenge your own opinion, or comfort yourself, using a tone of voice that's different from your usual one. Some researchers describe this as a temporary cognitive split, where your mind creates separate versions of yourself to work through a problem. But in some cases, if you get too immersed in these internal dialogues, the line between thought and reality can begin to blur. Talking to yourself is usually harmless. But if you've ever forgotten you were alone while doing it, then maybe you weren't really alone at all. Idea 4. Driving on autopilot. When you go the whole way and remember none of it. Have you ever driven for 20 or 30 minutes and suddenly realized, wait, I'm already here? And you can't really recall the road you just took. Nothing dangerous happened. You turned correctly, hit the brakes when needed, stopped at the red light, but your mind felt like it was completely absent during the whole ride. This isn't unusual. It's called autopilot mode. When you're doing something familiar, like driving, walking, or washing dishes, your brain switches to a low-energy setting, handling the task almost subconsciously. You're still performing complex actions, but your conscious mind is somewhere else. Some researchers compare it to being asleep while awake. You're not unconscious, but you're not fully present either. And here's the creepy part. If your brain can carry you through an entire journey without your awareness, what else might you have done without knowing it? Driving to your destination without remembering the trip might not sound scary, but when you weren't there with yourself. Idea 5. Sending a text and not remembering it. The eerie feeling of being disconnected from yourself. Have you ever opened your phone, looked at a message you sent and had no memory of writing it? You weren't drunk. You weren't even that sleepy. You were awake, and yet it felt like someone else had borrowed your hands and typed it out. A friend asks, "What did you mean by that message this morning?" And all you can do is stare at your screen, confused. Wait, what did I even say this morning? This isn't as rare as you'd think. It's a form of temporary disconnection between action and awareness. It can happen when you're distracted, anxious, or so used to messaging that your hands are on autopilot while your mind drifts somewhere else. In psychology, this is considered a light form of dissociation where your mind checks out of the present moment, while your body continues to act out of habit. It's like you're just a spectator watching yourself do things. Sounds harmless enough. But if you can write and send a full message without remembering any of it, what else might you have done without realizing it? Idea 6. Hearing your name when no one's actually there. Have you ever clearly heard someone call your name while you were cooking, showering, or just sitting alone? You turned around. No one was there. Maybe you even stepped outside your room and asked, "Did someone just call me?" And everyone just looked at you, confused. You told yourself, "I must have imagined it." But the thing is, it felt real, as if someone was standing right next to your ear. This phenomenon is known as a benign auditory hallucination. It doesn't mean something is wrong with you. You're not losing your mind. In fact, it's your brain's way of stimulating alertness, especially when you're stressed, tired, or feeling isolated. Your name is one of the most familiar sounds to your brain. So when you're disconnected, your mind may call out to you using your own name as a way to pull you back into the present moment. What's even creepier? Many people experience this after long periods of solitude. There are no ghosts, no one hiding nearby. It's just your brain, inventing an imaginary companion. Idea 7. Vividly imagining your own death even when you're totally fine. Have you ever suddenly pictured yourself falling off a balcony? Getting hit by a car while crossing the street? Or lying in a hospital bed? Machines beeping, your family standing around you? You weren't depressed. You weren't even in danger. But out of nowhere, your brain served you a detailed, almost cinematic scene of your own death. This phenomenon is surprisingly common and is known as intrusive thoughts, uninvited mental images or scenarios that pop into your mind without warning or intention. Psychologists say these thoughts don't mean you secretly want to die. Instead, they often come from your brain running what-if simulations, extreme ones, to help you prepare emotionally or avoid risk. It's your mind's way of testing boundaries, imagining consequences, or reacting to anxiety. What makes it creepy is how specific these moments can be. You don't just think, "What if I died?" You see it, the fall, the impact, the sirens, the silence, and then, you blink, shake your head, and carry on, wondering what that was all about. The scariest part? It wasn't a dream. It wasn't fantasy. It was your brain, scripting your own ending, just in case. So next time your mind flashes an image of your own funeral or accident, don't panic. Just remember, even the weirdest thoughts have a reason for showing up. We often think we're fully in control of our actions, our thoughts, our memories. But the moments you just heard about prove one thing. There are things happening inside you that you're not even aware of. That's not something to fear. In fact, it's what makes being human so complex, so fascinating, and sometimes beautifully strange. When you call someone by the wrong name, drive on autopilot, or hear your name when no one's there, it doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It means your brain is working overtime, trying to make sense of this life in its own mysterious way. So drop a comment below, "I've experienced this," and share the creepiest little moment your brain ever surprised you with. You might just realize you're not alone. And the next time you find yourself staring into the mirror in the middle of the night, just remember, the scariest thing isn't in the mirror. It might be living quietly inside your own mind.